Welcome to Empower Wyandotte. I'm your host, Jessica Schmidtberger, a third-year doctoral occupational therapy student at the University of Kansas Medical Center in Kansas City, Kansas, located more broadly in Wyandotte County, Kansas, hence the name of this podcast, Empower Wyandotte. In this space, we jump into meaningful conversations about the systems around us and what's affecting health in our community, so we can step more confidently into conversations and action in our own communities. Whether you find yourself in Wyandotte County or any of the other 3,000 plus counties in the United States. To introduce Empower Wyandotte, I thought it'd be helpful to talk through a few key terms and ideas that we'll be using throughout this series, which we'll dive more into later. But to start, I'm not from Wyandotte County, but I am grateful to get to learn in and from this community in formal and in informal educational settings. I am currently completing my doctoral capstone experience at Crosslines Community Outreach, an organization serving folks affected by poverty in Kansas City, Kansas, primarily through hunger relief and housing stabilization programs. And I've gotten to combine my occupational therapy lens with Crosslines programs in order to apply a concept that I've learned about in school called the social determinants of health. And just to define that really quick for you, the social determinants of health are the conditions and the environments where people are born, live, learn, play, worship, age, all these things that affect a wide range of health, functioning, and quality of life for us. So, in other words, the social determinants of health are all the social pieces of our lives that determine or inform or influence our health outcomes, which can include just about anything. And the CDC says that these impact anywhere from 80 to 90% of our health outcomes. And as an occupational therapy student, these are really important because these are impacting what people have access to and are able to engage in as far as meaningful activities and what people want to do to occupy their time. And that is where my inspiration and my excitement for this project goes. So throughout this series, we'll be talking to professionals from Crosslines who are working with people who are experiencing homelessness, housing insecurity, food insecurity, and just navigating the systems around them, and looking specifically at some social determinants of health that they're navigating alongside people to kind of dissect what we can do as community members to support their initiatives and also to build our allyship muscles, to build our advocate muscles, to ultimately become involved in whatever ways that we feel capable and called to. Some of what we'll be talking about here are housing status. So is a person experiencing homelessness, living in their car? Do you have heat and air conditioning in your home? 50%, so half of homes in several census tracts in Wyandotte County don't have heat, which leads to a lot of adverse health outcomes. Do you have your mortgage paid off if you own a house, or are you able to pay your rent? Are you able to keep your lights on? Another note about our health outcomes related to housing is that an individual experiencing homelessness has a life expectancy of about 30 years less than the average person. So the average adult living in the United States has a life expectancy of around 80 years, but a person experiencing homelessness has a life expectancy of anywhere from 43 to 54 years old. Again, about a 30-year difference, because living outside is dangerous. Exposure to extreme heat, extreme cold, the elements, violence, substances, all things that impact well-being. And that's just one social determinant of health, housing status, that impacts all of these other things. And then there's food access, really important. So do you have access to a grocery store nearby? Do you have access to funding for buying groceries? Are you able to drive if you can't walk to a grocery store by you? Do you have access to resources to feed yourself or your kids? 1 in 4 kids in Kansas are hungry or don't have secure access to food on a day-to-day basis, impacting growth, brain function, and overall health. And communication abilities. 65 languages are spoken across the Wyandotte County school districts. Are you able to encounter people who speak your native language? Do you have a phone? Do you have access to people's phone numbers who you need to get in contact with? All of these different concepts, and that's just the surface. These social determinants of health really intersect and build on top of each other to create these unique health outcomes, these unique experiences for everybody in our community. And we can dissect those for ourselves. We can also begin to understand what other people are going through in our community and build a little bit of empathy and a little bit of understanding. So that is what we're doing here. I have gotten to spend a lot of time diving into research and evidence that are supporting the conversations that we're having here, and also the intersectionality of the social determinants of health and occupational therapy and how we as community members can become involved in our communities. And that is what we'll be sharing here. First and foremost, I'm a learner and I'm getting to share with you that evidence that I found, but also we're getting to learn from some professionals who have real experiences working with people who are navigating systems and processes in a unique way with that unique set of social determinants of health that we're talking about. All of the information and the conversations that you'll find here are current as of March 2025. You'll be able to find all of the evidence and the resources that I've used throughout creating this podcast in the show notes of each episode. And I encourage you to look at them, go through them. And more than anything, I hope that this space is a launch pad in our learning journeys to go out and find the resources in our community, go out and understand what people are experiencing in our communities and how we can continue becoming more informed members of our communities, because that is where change begins. That is where that empowerment starts. And that is what each and every one of us has the capability of doing on our own time in our own ways. My email will also be in the show notes, so reach out to me and ask me the questions that come up as you listen to the conversations that we're having, because I know that I don't have all the answers, but I really want to continue learning more. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on the first episode.